In 1968, a Soviet ballistic missile submarine carrying 98 men and 3 nuclear warheads vanished beneath the Pacific Ocean. The Soviets searched for months. They never found it, but the Americans did. And then they spent 6 years, hundreds of millions of dollars, and built a ship the size of a football field, all to raise it from the dead. This is the story of Project Azorian, the most audacious, expensive, and secretive undersea salvage operation in history. Let's start at the beginning. March 1968, the Soviet Navy lost contact with the K-129, a Golf II-class ballistic missile submarine, approximately 1,560 miles northwest of Hawaii. The cause of the sinking remains officially unknown to this day. But whatever happened, the submarine sank to a depth of 16,500 feet. Impossible to reach, impossible to recover. At least, that's what everyone thought. The Americans found the wreck within weeks. The U.S. Navy's SOSUS underwater listening network had detected the explosion. They knew exactly where it was. And they knew what it was carrying: nuclear warheads, missile technology, and codebooks. So in 1969, President Richard Nixon personally authorized a task force to figure out how to retrieve it. The mission had one objective: bring that submarine up before the Soviets found it. But here's the thing about 16,500 feet. That's 3 miles deep. The pressure down there is enough to crush a battleship. No one had ever attempted to lift anything that heavy from that depth. So the CIA did what the CIA does. They built a cover story. Enter Howard Hughes. The eccentric billionaire lent his name to the project to make it look like commercial research. The CIA built a ship called the Hughes Glomar Explorer. Its official mission? Deep-sea mining. But underneath the deck was a massive claw. A capture vehicle designed to descend 3 miles down, grab the wreck, and haul it up. The engineering was staggering. The capture vehicle weighed tons. The ship had to be built around it. And the cost? By today's standards, over $1.5 billion. The CIA released an internal article about Project Azorian in 1985, but they kept it classified for another 25 years. When researchers finally got their hands on it in 2010, they found that the juicy details were still blacked out. So here's what we know. In August 1974, the Glomar Explorer sailed from Hawaii to the recovery site. The capture vehicle descended through the darkness. It grabbed the submarine, and it started hauling it up. But something went wrong. Most of the sub broke apart during the ascent. The CIA recovered only a portion of the wreck. They got the forward section, the torpedo compartment, and some of the crew quarters. Inside, they found the bodies of 6 Soviet sailors. The Americans gave them a full military burial at sea. There's a declassified videotape of the ceremony. It was later turned over to Russian President Boris Yeltsin in the early 1990s. But the valuable parts, the missile compartment, the nuclear warheads, the code room, the reactor, fell back to the ocean floor. They remain there to this day. And here's the question that haunts this entire operation. What did the CIA actually get? The released documents claim only intangibly beneficial results: a boost in morale, advances in heavy lift technology at sea. In other words, they spent $1.5 billion and apparently learned almost nothing. But that doesn't add up. Why would the CIA sink that much money and risk if they weren't expecting a massive intelligence windfall? Researchers and journalists have concluded that the mission produced mixed results at best. One account claims the CIA recovered at least 2 nuclear-armed torpedoes. But even that was a small prize compared to the warheads and codebooks they were really after. Here's the thing. The CIA kept Project Azorian classified for decades. They refused to confirm its existence even after journalists broke the story in 1975. And when they finally released an internal article about it in 2010, they still blacked out key passages. What are they still hiding? Now, here's where this story gets even stranger. In 1986, another Soviet nuclear submarine, a Yankee-class vessel armed with 16 sulfur monosulfide N6 missiles, each carrying multiple warheads, caught fire and sank approximately 600 miles northeast of Bermuda. It was carrying nuclear weapons. It sank in deep water, and the U.S. had the technology to salvage it, or at least to try. But they chose not to. The Pentagon publicly announced the sinking on October 6, 1986. Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger compared it to Chernobyl, a reference to the catastrophic nuclear accident that had happened just 6 months earlier. And then the US did nothing. Retired submarine commander James Bush told the press that there was not much we need to know about that class of submarine. Other experts agreed that the intelligence value would be minimal. The codes and ciphers had likely been destroyed by the crew before the ship went down. And salvaging from 18,000 feet would be incredibly risky and expensive. But here's what they don't say. The 1986 submarine sank near Bermuda, the same region where, according to some accounts, a Soviet submarine reportedly sank and was never found decades earlier. That's the second disappearance. And unlike Project Azorian, there was no salvage, no Howard Hughes cover story, no billion-dollar operation. Just another nuclear submarine lost to the deep. So let's connect the dots. In 1968, a Soviet sub sinks in the Pacific. The CIA spends 6 years and $1.5 billion trying to raise it. They recover only part of it, and they keep the full results classified for 50 years. In 1986, a Soviet sub sinks in the Atlantic near Bermuda. The US has the technology to attempt a salvage, but they don't. They say it's not worth the effort. They say the intelligence is outdated. But why? What changed between 1974 and 1986? The answer might be simpler than you think. By 1986, the US already had what they needed. The Soviets were collapsing, the Cold War was winding down, the risk of an undersea confrontation with a nuclear-armed superpower was higher than the intelligence reward. But there's another possibility. The 1986 sub sank with nuclear weapons on board, and with them, the potential for a catastrophic radiation leak if the salvage operation went wrong. Environmental concerns alone would have made the mission politically unthinkable. The K-129 sank in 1968 with 98 men. They're still down there. The 1986 sub sank with over 100 men. They're still down there too. And the secrets they were carrying? Those are still locked away in CIA vaults. The cost of Project Azorian was enormous. The recovered sections of the submarine were taken to Hawaii. What the CIA learned from them has never been fully disclosed. But here's what we do know. The K-129's sinking remains unexplained. The Soviet Navy never knew where it was. The CIA found it, raised part of it, and then buried the truth. And the 1986 submarine near Bermuda? That story is still waiting for its investigation. 2 submarines, 2 unexplained disasters, 2 secrets at the bottom of the ocean. The question is, what else is down there? This is lost time.